What's the question today?
All right, Sifu, this is from one of your subscribers. My BJJ instructor keeps insulting Bruce Lee. I want to stop BJJ, but I signed a year contract. What do I do? Hello, Freddie. I am 23 years old. I've been studying Jeet Kune and boxing, but just recently started training in BJJ 2 months ago. It's been great, and I really enjoy the class, but 2 weeks ago I came in with a Bruce Lee t-shirt, and my professor said, "Cool shirt." I told him thanks and explained to him that I'm a huge Bruce Lee fan, and I've been learning the art of JKD. He laughs in my face and tells me, "Don't waste my time on that BS." Now every time I go to class, he calls me, GKD or cool fool kid in a condescending way. Honestly, it's getting to me. One of the reasons I took BJJ is to expand my knowledge of the martial arts, not to be disrespected. I want to stop training BJJ or go to another school, but my only problem is I signed a year contract. What do I do?
There's a lot of things that this question will lead towards that I think that I could speak about, but just to quickly answer his question as far as signing that year contract, the money, you either let go of the money and move forward, or you could just maybe speak to the instructor and just let him know that how you feel, that you don't you feel disrespected and you feel doesn't make you feel good that the way he's treating you, and then maybe politely ask for your money back. And if he doesn't want to give the money back, then I'd say to just basically be able to come to a class that's free from disrespect, and he deserves that. He deserves not to be disrespected. And the instructor should understand. Maybe he just doesn't know, and he just needs to be made aware that he doesn't like to be disrespected in that way. And then that's all it should take. And then just go ahead and do the whole year, learn what you need to learn, and then just get out of there. Because it is a waste of money to just not go. But I say that it brings up a lot of things because that's why a lot of times there are uniforms in schools to prevent stuff like this. I can understand from the perspective, because essentially BJJ and Jeet Kune, so Jeet Kune is by Bruce Lee, BJJ is by the Gracie family. They're in pretty much like direct opposition. Their values are going to be clearly different. That's why they're different labels. You can't say the Gracie family is the same as the Lee family. It's not the same. You can't say BJJ is the same as Jeet Kune. It's not the same. They are contrast. BJJ is Japan and Brazil. Jeet Kune is America and China. They are different, and it's just a conflict of interest. And really, it's like somebody walking into my school with a BJJ shirt on, and then how would I respond to that? Maybe I might talk to the person and be like, "Well, what's going on? Are you training in two schools? Like, are you training somewhere else too? Are you training here?" Just to be made aware of that. And once you are made aware of that, as an instructor, you'd want to see, well, where is his loyalty? Where is his heart? Is his heart with this school or is it with that school? Once that's determined, then the instructor could, essentially, if he wanted to, he could be like, "Well, you could have your money back because I want to train people that are loyal to this school." Potentially he could do that. Or he could just be like, well, he could just take that information in and be like, well, okay, maybe I just won't show him everything. I won't help him progress the quickest that I can help him because he may take that information and go somewhere else. Because it's just like a conflict of interest in a way, and I can understand that, because they're different methods, different teachings. You know, you can't really, I mean, they have this saying too, you know, a lot people tell me, you know, you can't serve two masters. You know, I mean, there's different outlooks on it, but I could understand that outlook to a certain extent. You know, and with the martial arts, if you got one teacher telling you one thing, another teacher telling you another thing, that's how you get confused and lost. And I think what happened was the instructor got really disrespected by him to wear that Bruce Lee shirt into his school. That's what essentially happened. So then he's coming back with disrespect to the student because he probably felt very offended to see Bruce Lee in that school.
I do have a question about that though.
Mm-hmm.
As the master of the school, you know, as the leader of the school, that is, I see that as a position of authority. Like he's an elder in this form. You are an elder, you know, being, you know, as Sifu of your style of Kung Fu. And so I believe with that there comes a sense of responsibility and maturity, right?
Yeah.
So if he felt disrespected by his student coming in wearing, you know, a Bruce Lee t-shirt, instead of coming back as, you know, the student, as he felt the student was, because perhaps he didn't mean any disrespect, you know, that was just him wearing, you know, a shirt of a guy who he's a fan of, you know, what he's learning from. But instead of coming back that way, I mean, how do you feel about being the master of the school, being the leader, you know, you as Sifu, responding to a student who's coming to learn in a disrespectful way, or in a way to belittle the student, instead of educating him perhaps on the statutes of his school, he decided to belittle him. You know, so I guess I'm understanding loyalty is a big thing. So how would you handle it? You know, if that were to happen, if someone came in from a different school or a different style, would it be a belittling thing with you? Would you do what the other instructor did and, you know, kung fu kid, and, you know, or do you believe that there's a better way to address things like that? I know.
Because when I think about it, it actually happens here. Okay. Because you might not realize, but Shen came from a Wing Chun school, and it's not even BJJ. It's not even a different country. This is the same country, so it doesn't even have to deal with BJJ versus Jeet Kune. It could be Chinese versus Chinese, because that's what happens in China, you know, like direct competition amongst Chinese schools. And it's not even race. I mean, it's just direct competition amongst companies. Apple versus Samsung, for example, right? So Shen did come from a Wing Chun school. And as we've experienced in this school, the way you joke with people, you have to really be careful, because they could misunderstand the joke and they could be very offended, and it can make them not want to come back. So just joking in general is a delicate thing. You have to learn how to joke, but in a respectful way. And when you joke with somebody, you gotta know the person if you're gonna come at them at a certain angle, you know, because you know we joke in here a lot, you know, not a lot, but I know how to joke with who, you know, to joke with. And I think when you talk about the master, it's the same thing with jobs. You know, some people could be in a position of authority, but they might not be too mature, right? And then there could be people that are parents, but they're still not that mature, right? So we're always gonna be put in a position where usually people will end up being in a position of authority even if they're not ready to be in that position. So even being a bigger brother doesn't mean you're gonna be mature, you know. Maturity comes through experiences and life experience, and I'm not gonna say I'm the most mature person at all times. I mean, sometimes I joke around, but I've learned through time to know when to joke, when to be serious, and I'm I don't know the instructor, and I don't know what other qualities that he has. But all I'm saying is that I could understand maybe how he felt when he saw that shirt, because his idol is probably the Gracie family. And then when you see somebody who's the opposite of that, it could bring this type of antagonistic, competitive immaturity out of you. You know, just like some religious people where they would only view Jesus in a certain way, and then anybody else is like, no. Or like, they see that in religion as well, you know, like religions against one another. And Bruce Lee was trying to bring everybody together and be like, try to more about following your heart and accepting all. That's why this student is confused, because he's going off of Bruce Lee's, you know, precepts, but then the teacher that he's going to doesn't view it that way, and that's where the conflict is. But as far as how I would handle it, you know, Shen did come from another school, and I didn't speak down of the school at all. I was thankful that he even considered to come here, and then I showed him what the school had to offer. We started training, and I was very respectful to him. And most of the students were respectful to him, but even he was disrespected by one of the elder students because of his race. And then I stepped in to try to discipline the elder student for doing that, and then the elder student ended up leaving the school. But it was worth that, because that's not going to be tolerated, you know. He wasn't making fun of him coming from another school. He was making fun of his race, and that's totally different. So I stood up for Shen, even though he was a new student, because I've gone through that, and I don't want my school to be represented by that, right? So I take that very seriously, you know. It was always respect throughout, but Shen just ended up being a very humble and comedic person. So then jokes came like way later, after getting to know him. So then we started poking fun at, you know, the things that he learned in the other school, and things, how certain things aren't effective, and you know, he knows it, you know. But it's just because we've gotten to know him, then we can poke fun at certain things, you know. But it was getting to know the person first. But you know, I think, I mean, I really do understand, you know, because you know that I have a certain viewpoint towards MMA, for example, and even the BJJ. There's certain things that I don't like, and if a BJJ loyal person to BJJ came in this school, I wonder why he would even be here. Because if he's loyal to BJJ, and he knows my views, because I might not disrespect BJJ or MMA. I mean, I might not disrespect BJJ in here, but sooner or later, he's gonna find a video where he's gonna feel offended, and then he probably will want to quit, you know, because it is, in a way, it is opposite. I mean, because even Osho, he speaks really negatively against politicians. He's basically saying there's no way you could be a politician and be a meditator at the same. It's just completely opposite. The striving towards power, the striving towards meditation is completely opposite. So a lot of times when you read his books, he's always talking down on politics. And in a way, like I said, you know, Bruce Lee's teachings are going to be very, very different than what you would find in BJJ. So I can understand the situation. But as far as him signing that year, I mean, learning from that school, I mean, it's almost like that shirt kind of showed the instructor that, you know, it kind of exposed him, and now the instructor knows. And there's no, like, he might not say anything again, but he knows. But anyway, the instructor already has his money, so the instructor already knows he's gonna leave after a year anyway. So the instructor's probably like, just leave now. I already got your money, so why even teach you? So I mean, it almost gets to the point where he could be made so uncomfortable in there that he can't even come back, because the instructor doesn't even want him there.
But see, then it begs the question, the responsibility of the instructor as the provider of a service, you know, because he signed a contract for a year to receive teaching, right?
Yeah.
And I'm sure a certain level of teaching, I'm sure with that contract, the instructor let him know this is what you're going to get for the money that you're going to pay for a year. So at this point, it's not up to the instructor to just take his money and not give him the instruction that he told him he would get, because that would be a breach of contract as well. And then in that case, the student would be at right to get his money back because he's not getting the services that the provider, and this is just coming, common contract, daily contract, education. If the instructor isn't going to give him the service, then he needs to refund him his money. But then you have to look at that as a situation. Where does contractual learning come in when it comes to like true loyalty and the true essence of taking in this new form of martial arts? Like, is the instructor gonna lay down and be like, okay, I know he's Jeet Kune. All right. What am I going to do? I mean, so you have to look at it that way too. If you have a paying student and they paid you up front, what would you do? If they came in and you now know they're of a different school, you don't know if they're coming in, genuinely to learn from you now and to take on your precepts and what you have to offer, because it's great what you do here. Or, are they coming in just to kind of scope you out to go back to home base? So, how do you make that determination and then in one way or the other honor the contract, quote unquote, refund them the money and let them go, or ask them to leave, or trust that, they are a student that truly do want to learn from you, and keep them on and maybe educate them in a way that they truly are ignorant of and may enlighten them.
Well, the thing is, this is the thing about the martial arts. It's not meant to be commercialized in this way.
Oh.
It's not meant to have this contract. It's basically not the same as just joining a gym. The martial arts is you have, it's supposed to be, you have this special connection with your master or your sifu or whoever, mm-hmm. and that love is what brings the real teachings out. Now, if there's not, because it doesn't even have to be this. If there's no connection with not just the teacher, but the sifu and the student, if there's no connection there, like a special connection, they're never gonna be able to get the most out of the art, because they're just either not ready or it's not in their heart. They might be showing up, but they're just not gonna be able to just blossom, and that's just the nature of relationships, which is beyond contract. I mean, just think about it, not just in terms of the martial arts, but just in terms of love. Like, I don't even love that person, but dang, I'm married, I'm stuck. Like, that's not how it's supposed to be. It's supposed to be, it just requires a lot of communication. But maybe this should have been communicated before he even signed the contract. Like, what are you here for? What do you want to learn? Do you just want to get a workout? Do you want to learn just for a year? Like, where's your loyalty? Where's your heart? If you would have said, well, my heart is Jeet Kune and Bruce Lee, then it would have been just clear right there. Well, this school is BJJ, Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. This is not Jeet Kune. This is not Kung Fu. This is not that. What are you even doing here? Because it's kind of a waste of the instructor's time to put the energy into something that's not even going to be there for the long run. And not only that, but potentially take those lessons and exploit it in their own school or whatever. And I could see it from both sides, even though, to me, I don't like BJJ myself, but I could see the things that could be the issues there, and like, when you talk about service, you could provide a service, but you could be serving tables. You're providing a service, but then This table, here's your money, here's your food. Other table, you're all happy, joking. I mean, you're still providing the service, but you know, this table, you're like, that table, you're like, I mean, the service is still provided, you know. So I mean, it's the same thing. You can't. The heart of the sifu or the instructor, it's either there or not, and if it's not there, then sometimes it's easier to be like, well, you signed this contract, and according to the contract, you know, I have the right to keep your money. But if you're not happy being here, that's not my fault. Like you come here, and I'm not happy that your heart is with Jeet Kune. You're not happy that I'm disrespecting you. I won't disrespect you. He could just, that could be the agreement. I just won't disrespect you, but I'm not happy that your heart is with Jeet Kune. But you did pay, and you are a paying student, and I will teach. But inside he'll know he's not going to be an assistant instructor. He's not going to train him to be the best that he could be. Because you already know that his heart is not with the school. So why would you? It's like, you know, you go to a job and then 2 months in you tell them, hey, I'm gonna leave in a year. You think they're gonna be like, oh yeah, great, promotion. Do you want to be promoted like now or like tomorrow? like I mean, you know how it's like. As soon as you tell them that, they'll be like, shit, okay. You're a great person, but you're gonna be gone in a year. And it's not even about the loyalty even. Sometimes you just have, this happened to me a lot, a great student, but they're gonna be moving. In a couple of years, they're gonna move. I had 2 great students, they're in the Army, they moved out of the state. I wish they're still here, but they moved. There's a lot of great people that went through here that moved. You know, so as an instructor, you have to be able to find the ones that are going to be here long term, the ones that are going to be here short term, and the ones that are here just to train. And even the ones that come through that just want to test out their techniques from another school here, I'm fine with that. I jump in the water and do it with them. But I know that they're not really truly students here. They just want to come to see, compare what they know to what we train. Which is fine. It's just basically me playing against somebody that I don't even know, you know, against in chess. I'll take that and learn from that, and he'll learn from that, and we both benefit. But I know he's not my student. You know, it's just basically like LeBron James and Kevin Durant are they're opposed. They're not. You know what I'm saying? Like opposing teams, and that's essentially what it is. It's like Jeet Kune is like the Golden State Warriors, and then the BJJ is like the Cavaliers. I mean, how could they be friends? Because they're designed to oppose each other, you know, and that's pretty much what happened in this situation.
Yeah, but also, and I love the analogy that you used, there is still a level of respect that each of the players have, the opposing teams have toward one another, because they understand that you can't get anything done or learn anything if you're bickering, going back and forth, or disrespecting one another. You can't have a good, clear game. You can't truly learn in an atmosphere like that. So where, you know, this kid, he may be Jeet Kune now, but who's to say that he may not find a treasure in BJJ? You know, if he went there to learn something from him, but the instructor, he wouldn't even give him the opportunity to do that if he keeps disrespecting him, and you know, or he may truly find, hey, you know what, this isn't for me, because if the disrespect is a part of their precepts, I don't want to be a part of that. I want to be a part of an organization or a discipline that, you know, is okay with disrespecting other human beings, you know, by belittling them. So yeah, but I love the analogy that you use, because I've seen you spar a couple of people from different schools and disciplines, and you are very respectful to them, you know, and that right there is what I believe Bruce may have welcomed, where he knew that there were different disciplines out there, and they would come in and they, like you said, would learn from one another, But that doesn't mean you have to belittle each other and be disrespectful. You know, let the art speak for itself. Learn from one another.
Yeah.
And then, you know,
Yeah.
go back and enhance your training.
I mean, that all goes back to maturity,
Mm-hmm.
and I don't know how old the instructor is, or how, you know, how long he's even been an instructor or a teacher or a master. He might not even be a master. He might be like just an assistant instructor. But the thing is, you gotta also understand that the nature, and I know you don't watch the NBA that much, but it used to be very much more physical, and there'd be a lot more disrespect in the past. But they changed the rules a lot to make it more respectful. We're to the point where you touch somebody, they call it like a technical. Like they basically the refs, the league, put a stop to the disrespect. Like they won't even let you celebrate after dunking. Like you can't be like that. Like they even call technical on that. So then it kind of forced all the players to be very gentle, but then at the same time the audience, they complain like this is just sissifying the NBA, or just it's not even entertaining anymore to them, because they just call so many fouls, and the people want to be entertained, right? So like in a way, it's when it comes to competitiveness like that, especially when there's a lot of money involved and fame, it's almost in the nature of the people involved to become all disrespectful or even violent or belittling. I mean, but nowadays the NBA's been cleaned up where even when you watch the interviews, they're very respectful towards each other. They don't talk bad about each other. They're always, and that's a great thing. And and that's what's needed in the martial arts. But because the nature of the martial arts is combat and fighting, you're gonna find a lot of belittling, a lot of disrespect, especially when you see two boxers looking at each other, staring each other down, that they want to kill each other, and they do that in the cage as well. I mean, it's just a common thing for combat sport to teach people, to brainwash people, to disrespect each other when they're opposing each other. Because that's what they do to generate the hatred, to give them more energy to fight each other. 'Cause how could there be a real fight without feelings of anger? So that's what makes something real, is when you both really don't like each other. But if you love each other, you like each other, then why even bother fighting, right? So then it's like, well, then we could just spar, but then people aren't entertained by sparring. So I'm completely not surprised the way that he handled it, because that's what a lot of people in the martial arts, they are like that. They're immature, they're disrespectful, they're violent, they're angry. Like they come in like that because they need the martial arts to change them, to become mature, to become peaceful, to become respectful. I mean, because if people came in already with those values, then what is there to teach anymore? They come in pretty much like imperfect, and then the teacher has to teach them to become a better person. And this teacher essentially could strengthen the student's will to be loyal to the Jeet Kune Do. But the problem with Jeet Kune Do is there's no live teacher. There's just Bruce Lee in a book and in movies. So that's why people seek elsewhere, because their teacher is not living. They want a living teacher. But there's no living Jeet Kune Do teacher. There's only Bruce Lee. So people are trying to seek for a living teacher that they could give their loyalty to. So it just happens that there's a lot of BJJ schools that are representing BJJ, and there's nobody representing Jeet Kune Do. So even though their heart is with Jeet Kune Do, they go into the BJJ school because that's where you meet the living person with all the other students to spar with, to train with, and then that's where's the dilemma. Your heart is with Bruce Lee and Jeet Kune Do, but then you want that interaction with other humans, and that's why you're in that school that your heart is not with. So there needs to be more teachers that hold on to the values of what Bruce had, to be out there, to be available for people to learn from. But there's just not that many of them, honestly. So a lot of times Bruce Lee's Jeet Kune is kind of teaching you to kind of trust yourself, believe in yourself, and if you cannot find people that can help guide you towards the right path, then you're going to have to learn how to guide yourself towards the right path. Because essentially that's what happened to Buddha. You know, he kept 7 years, he kept trying to learn from other people, and he ended up finding out that he had it within him. You know, so this may strengthen his will to find his own path. You know. Is that good?
It's great.
All right.